This podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations.
Wealth consciousness is simply the expansion of your consciousness and awareness into the wealthy parts of yourself. Have you ever wondered how the world around us is created and has come into being? What if I told you that the same power that creates worlds resides inside of you and inside of all of us? Each of us has the innate power to be, do, and have anything that we want in life. Do you dream of being your own boss? Getting that promotion at work? Attracting that dream partner? Creating a healthier lifestyle? Just being happier, at peace more often, and infinitely more fulfilled? What would you do if you 100% knew you couldn't fail and were limitless in the pursuit of your desires? I'm here to tell you that you really are all of that and can have all that you desire. The only person that's holding you back is you. Valeria Tejas interviews Katherine Cornwall, the founder of Clarity Queen, master coach and writer. Katherine has spent over a decade immersed in learning and applying teachings from world-leading experts in leadership, spirituality, wellness, and psychology. She is a qualified master coach and is currently qualifying as a clinical hypnotherapist. She has 15 plus years corporate leadership experience and academic qualifications in the field of investment management. Having overcome huge personal adversity to living a fulfilling existence, attracting a wonderful life partner, and manifesting financial security and freedom, Katherine has been called to share with others the deep manifestation knowledge and practices that she has applied to achieve the life of her dreams. Meet Katherine at clarityqueen.life. Here is the interview with Katherine Cornwall.
In your own words, who is Katherine Cornwall?
I mean, Katherine Cornwall is a powerful female who is on a mission to inspire and empower and lift up and support and collaborate with as many women as is humanly possible to work together to, raise the consciousness of the planet and just do more good in the world and help create more balance, love, and connection.
Powerful female. That's an interesting word, the word powerful, because most of us women tend not to use that word or refrain from it. I notice myself even. So my official first question to you is about power. What is your own definition of power?
I think that power is something that within today's society is very much kind of seen as a masculine trait, Right. It's a male, masculine, power dominant. And look, it could very well, I think it probably does sit in the energy of masculine, but we all have masculine and feminine energies inside of us. Men have feminine, women have masculine. Yeah. And I agree in that I think a lot of women shy away from their power or are afraid to step into their power because we have been conditioned. And as somebody who's worked in a male-dominated corporate environment for a very long time. Yeah. When we step into our power, we can be perceived as bossy. We can be perceived as too loud or too brash, or just too masculine, like one of the boys, instead of,
True.
Yeah, but I think you can step fully into your feminine power and, still very much have that softness, and it doesn't have to be rigid or strong or overpowering. And I do think many of us women have, rightly or wrongly, stepped out of our power instead of stepping into our power, because we are so used to stepping into power in the masculine sense instead of stepping into the power as in the feminine sense. And that's what power means to me.
When you say softness, you also mean compassionate, being kind, understanding. Can you elaborate a bit more about that? What do you mean by softness, Katherine?
Yeah, I think softness for me, softness isn't weakness,
Right.
Softness is, yes, it is compassion. Like, softness for me is a lot of feminine traits. Okay. Yes, it could be compassion. But also for me, it's flow.
Right.
It's gentleness. It's achieving more by doing less,
Yeah.
It's not forcing, it's kind of, it's just all of that. Yeah, that's what softness means to me.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that resonates true to me. 1,000%, yes. This being genuine, being ourselves without fear, and not being afraid to be true, really. Because, like you mentioned, we have both the energies of feminine and masculine, not being afraid of using them. And I do believe that when we reach the point of balance, then we have that wisdom to use the masculine when we need that energy, and then the feminine when it's needed as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think something you touched on there, the balance is so important. And I think a lot of us are imbalanced in how we use our masculine or how we use our feminine completely.
And you're right about that. I think lots of men around me, they're not comfortable using their feminine energy. Speaking of balance, that's very important, because anything that's out of balance, that brings to the surface illnesses and issues, as we know.
Absolutely.
So my next question that has to do, that some people connect to power, is success. So talk to me about success for a moment, Katherine, and what is to be successful to you?
So I now have a very different view of success to what my 25-year-old self had about success. I would say my 25-year-old self, when she thought about success, it was about materialism. Mostly, it was about achieving. It was, having the money and having the things, and kind of, that's a very misguided way of looking at success. It was climbing that corporate ladder. It was having the most, senior opportunity I could get my hands on. It was being perceived by my colleagues and friends as doing good, and it was all really coming from a place of not feeling good enough, actually, and not being enough, not feeling truly worthy, of everything that I ever desired. And that came from numerous kind of, places and things that had happened, as a child, that we all go through. We all have different upbringings, and we all have, trauma that we have to heal, and et cetera, et cetera.
True.
Now, for me, success is very much about living into your purpose. It's living into your dharma. It is following your soul's path. It is being true to yourself. It is living a life of authenticity. And it's not being afraid to go after your dreams and desires, and no longer keeping yourself small or fitting yourself into a box that society thinks you need to be in. That for me is success. And that is what I'm working towards every single day.
Yes, because it's not a destination. Most of these ideas we have about life, success, power, that balance, it's a practice, isn't it? It really feels like it. What do you think is the purpose of your life at this time?
So, again, I went many, many years without knowing what my purpose was. I got to the age of, I think, 30 and realized that I didn't even know who I was, let alone what my purpose in life was. And then I embarked on a 7-year journey, 6-7-year journey of really going inward, that journey inward. You know, who am I? What is my purpose? Why am I here? You know, why do I believe the things I believe? And, you know, I'm sure we all go down this path of understanding there's such a thing as consciousness. There's such a thing as the soul. There's such a thing as, you know, I was so removed from God, I would say, at that time, and just not really, you know, because I didn't believe in religious dogma, but I was still a very spiritual person. I just didn't know kind of, you know, where that was coming from. And I've now reached a point in my life where my purpose is very much to step into my power. Yeah. It's to step into my feminine power. It's to not lean so heavily on my masculine. It is to leverage all of the knowledge that I've learned over many, many years, and all of the new knowledge that I've learned and that I'm applying to manifest and create the life of my dreams, and to reach, you know, that level of happiness, peace, love, and contentment that I used to crave so much, and living with that day in, day out, and achieving that. And then my purpose is to then show other people, teach other people, you know, or just impart that knowledge onto other people, because that isn't knowledge that should be kept to ourselves. It's knowledge that has to be shared. And I firmly believe that the world needs women in a position of power. We have too many men in very high positions of power in society, across society, multiple layers of society, right the way up the chain. And I think it's created imbalance in the world. It's created a lot of the negative stuff that we see these days, you know, you know, a lot of the war, a lot of the, you know, it's just a lot of imbalance. And it sounds very lofty, but I feel my purpose is to contribute towards that in some way, shape or form.
You talk about something interesting that I never heard before, is the wealth consciousness. That is an interesting idea. Now might be the perfect time to talk about it, Katherine. What is wealth consciousness?
So consciousness, you know, is just it's pure awareness. You know, it's infinite. It can never die. You know, I guess it's God, right? It's how I view consciousness, and we all are consciousness, right? It's who we are. It's what everything is made of. And wealth consciousness is quite simply an awareness of the wealth inside of yourself. It's the wealthy parts of yourself. And when you have an awareness and you shine a light of awareness on the wealthy parts of yourself, that expansion then will wake you up to the parts of yourself that we've either blocked or shut off or become stagnant from social conditioning. I'll give you an example. You know, I wasn't born into wealth. Okay. So I grew up in a household where it was a continuous flow of, I don't have enough. I am, what we used to say, skint is the word that was used in my household, but that means poor. I don't have any money. I was always told, you can't have, we can't afford. Money doesn't grow on trees. Who do you think I am, Rockefeller? And which was one of my mum's favorite sayings. And many people, you know, grew up like that, and with a lot less than what I had. Okay, I'm not saying, you know, I was the poorest of the poor. I'm a white female. I'm obviously born with significant privilege. In a privileged country. Okay, I'm aware of that. But still, my wealth consciousness wasn't there. You know, I never felt wealthy. I felt limited. I grew up with a belief and an energy of lack and limitation instead of an energy of wealth and expansion. Okay. We never grew up in a household where money was talked about or wealth was talked about in terms of accumulation. You know, it was in one hand out the other. You know, it was like, you know, in a sieve, you know, it would go in and it would just leak out the other side. And I think when you increase your internal wealth consciousness, you're effectively increasing your worthiness when it comes to money. Okay. We know that we feel worthy of money and of wealth. Okay. And we almost expect it to come to us because that is because we're worthy and for no reason other than that.
Right.
Okay. And when a wealthy when you have a wealthy family and a child is born into wealth, they would never not expect them to have money. You know, they expect to have wealth. They expect that to come to them.
Yeah.
And really, for me, wealth consciousness is about that. It's not to be confused with self-worth, because you can have a very wealthy person that has low self-worth and a very poor person that has high self-worth. But wealth consciousness is quite simply your awareness of wealth, I guess. You know, and actually what the energetics of money even is. And I think a lot of people don't see money as energy. They see money as pounds and pence or dollars and cents, and there's only a limited amount of it, which is completely inaccurate.
Yeah, I love the way you say that money is energy. The article you sent me says money isn't real. We are the ones that give value to material things. And that is so true. It resonates so true to me. And I wonder why so many of us who are aware of this knowledge, understand actually these ideas, we still don't manifest that external wealth. Talk to me a bit about that, Katherine.
So I think there's one thing to understand at a kind of a logical, you know, at the logical level, that money isn't real. And I know that money now is on a computer screen, but the belief, it's around the belief that we have. And I would say our conscious mind and our conscious beliefs drive maybe 5% of our behavior, whereas our subconscious mind and our subconscious beliefs drive 95% of our actual behavior.
True. Yeah.
So whilst we might read an article that says, that I've written here, that says, oh, you know, money isn't real, you know, you could manifest as much of it as you wanted if you really wanted to. Yeah. And everyone goes, but how? You know, and your logical brain instantly starts going, well, no, because I know I have to trade time for money, and I know that I only earn a certain amount per hour. Right. And you know, and then you start thinking about it logically. Right. But actually, when you think about money at the level of energetics, really, money doesn't have a mind of its own. Money responds to your vibrational state. It responds to how worthy you think you are of a certain level of wealth. It responds to, you know, what level of money you're thinking about. It determines, you know, what dreams do you have? What aspirations do you have? What do you want to do with your money? Like what difference do you want to make in the world? It responds to your conditioning, and that conditioning is from birth. You know, and those limiting beliefs that you might have around wealth and where wealth comes from and how to create more wealth will come from how you were brought up. It will come from the ideals that your family had. It will come from your network. It will come from the people you spend the most time with. It comes from your environment. And it's multifaceted, and it's really complex. You know, there's a lot that goes into, I would say, our wealth thermometer, you know, and whether it's, you know, high or low, you know, and you know, our ability to attract or repel wealth. And you know, but it really does at the most basic level come down to our beliefs, and our belief that we are worthy of attaining a certain level of wealth.
And that brings me to the topic of hypnotherapy. That's something that you are studying, currently being qualified to become. What's the relationship between hypnotherapy and belief systems, or trying to reach the subconscious? Is that the only way to uncover the subconscious beliefs, or there are other methods as well?
No, there are definitely other methods as well. So it's worth noting that I'm training with Marissa Peer. Yeah. And I don't know if you heard of Marissa Peer. She's UK-based actually she's global, but she's from the UK, and she's a hypnotherapy therapist, but she's been in this game for 30 plus years, and she's developed a methodology called rapid transformational therapy. And it's RTT that I'm currently training in. And yes, you have traditional hypnotherapy, where you might have somebody on a couch, you know, and they might come and see you and you have to do 10 sessions, okay, of hypnotherapy to maybe get them to break a habit or get them to, you know, replace limiting beliefs about themselves and change a behavior, yeah, and get that transformation. RTT, and again, I'm qualifying, so I'm not qualified yet, but it's a rapidly different type of hypnotherapy. It's designed to get clients results really quickly within maybe a session or 2 or 3, depending on the severity of the affliction or the challenge or the problem that the client has or the patient has. And the reason I got into this is because I am obsessed with how the mind works. You know, the mind is a fantastic tool. It's just that we have in society today have allowed our minds to completely run the show. They run our lives now. We are so in our logical minds, which is a very, again, masculine thing to do. And we're in a very masculine world, masculine environment. They say it's a man's world. They're not wrong. It was built by men for men, and we as women are now trying to win in this world. And you know, the mind really is reprogrammed through neuroplasticity. The mind, you know, that the neurons in your mind wire and fire certain ways, and they can be reprogrammed, they can be rewired, they can be refired different ways. And the mind cannot tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. And we just constantly, subconsciously or unconsciously, feed it the same data all the time and wonder why we're not changing and wonder why we're getting the same old results all the time and wonder why we have these phobias and wonder why we have these fears. And, you know, that the mind is such a powerful tool, but it really is quite flexible and we can teach it to be different. And that is why hypnotherapy, and it's, I think it's going to be a fantastic tool for me to use going forward, for sure.
Let me know. Keep me updated.
I will, yeah.
Have you tried personally hypnotherapy?
Yes. So I'm a big fan of hypnosis recordings. So, I mean, look, you can Google hypnosis and creating a hypnotherapy, not a hypnotherapy, but a hypnosis recording yourself. If you go on YouTube, you can just find tons of, you know, subliminal beats. I think they call them binaural beats. I can't remember the names of them now, but you can do lots of meditations like that online and they work really well. And I would say I definitely credit a lot of my own personal transformation through applying meditation, listening to meditations, and also hypnosis recording. Another way that I love to reprogram my mind is I love to write, journal, and speak out loud affirmations. And this is positive affirmations, starting with I am, or I have, or I do. And it's all designed to just reprogram my mind towards the very thing that I am manifesting. Because it's, you know, it's my firm belief that all of our dreams and desires, if you can imagine it, you've already created it. It's created in the quantum field. It's already there in the soup of infinite possibility. You've just got to align to it, you know, to then bring it in. And affirmations are a fantastic way of doing that, but also reprogramming your subconscious mind into having, I would say, more positive beliefs about yourself and about your reality.
That sounds a bit to me like the law of attraction. Is that somehow connected?
Yes, I would say they're very closely connected, very, very closely connected. I think the law of attraction, I mean, there are 12, probably more universal laws. You know, the law of cause and effect, I think, is the most important one. It's the law, I think, that governs all others, you know, and you could say that's also karma. What you put out, you get back, which is true. The law of attraction, it was obviously made famous by The Secret. And that's definitely, that was one of the first books I ever read. It's a great gateway book for anyone on this path. But yes, it's very, I would say it's very closely aligned. I mean, Marissa Peer herself talks a lot about manifestation, I would say, but that's not her leading philosophy, if that makes sense. You know, she's very much, you know, about the mind and the reprogramming of the mind and subconscious and the beliefs and, you know, and trauma healing and, you know, childhood and all the rest of it. So I think she takes a more clinical I would say, scientific approach to it. Joe Dispenza is another really good example of someone that's incredibly scientific, but is just talking about the same thing, which is law of attraction. I mean, we create our own reality by our predominant beliefs, thoughts, feelings, emotions, and actions.
Yeah.
And when all of them are aligned, is in integrity with what it is that we're bringing in, I mean, you can, it will determine the results that you have and how quickly you achieve those results every single time.
Do you somehow connect them, the mind being a tool, and then the realm of spirit, per se, the invisible world in the sense of spirituality, God? Do you somehow connect also these manifestations to being connected to spirit, to soul?
I absolutely do. Yes, they are one and the same thing. For me, my personal belief is that, we are a spiritual being having a human experience.
Yeah.
I believe we're infinite. I believe we're all made of it. Everything is made of energy. We are made of energy. We are that pure consciousness. We are that pure conscious awareness. That is the soul to me. That spirit, that soul. That is when my body dies, that will go on to live.
Yeah.
And yes, I do. And I believe, that is the guiding force behind my life. I tap into my that's what a lot of people refer to as their higher self. I now tap into my higher self, and that really is my intuition, that it's the gut, it's the heart and the gut brains, that those brains are the seat of the soul.
Right.
And that is where I connect to my higher self and listen to my intuition. But for many, many years, that was so cut off. I was so cut off from that. I didn't have awareness of it. I had really cut myself off, and I was in my head, I was using the logical mind and allowing the logical mind to run the show. And I think that's where I think the vast majority of people on this planet operate in that way, or particularly in the Western world, I think operate in that way. And I think we've lost touch. And we say we've disconnected from spirit, we've disconnected from our soul, maybe we've disconnected from God, and even people that go to church, let's be honest, have still disconnected from, depending on what their beliefs are, have still potentially disconnected from source, from spirit. And, it's not one and the same thing. Just because you're religious does not mean that you are aligned with your soul and are connected to source and spirit. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. But I definitely believe in that. And, that is, it's all the same thing. It's all connected. I think that science is finally catching up with spirituality.
Yeah, I hope we can, in the future, have more conversations at that level, like the scientific level, just showing evidences, which we already see that now, but it's not believable yet by most people. Not yet. So we're almost at the end. You sent to me the 5 steps to increasing your wealth consciousness. So step 1 and 2, I think we have been talking about understand how manifestation truly works. Step 2, replace limiting conditions with empowering ones. And then 3, you mentioned give as often as you can. Talk to me for a moment about step 3, Katherine.
So, give as often as you can. And this is purely, you can give, time, you can give, your attention, there's other things that you can give that's not money related. But specifically in this blog, I was talking about money and energy of money. So energy has to flow. Okay. It has to flow. And, we have the law of giving, and we also have the law of cause and effect. And whilst you wouldn't give money with an expectation that you expect it back,
right,
you would by giving. It's proven time and time again that when you give and you give joyfully, you give to charity with no expectation of it coming back. You give in gratitude to people, knowing that you're helping or you're passing it along or you're flowing the money. it comes back to you, and quite oftentimes it comes back to you in a higher proportion to what you've actually given it. And people that are incredibly wealthy understand this. They understand this intrinsically. Multimillionaires, billionaires, they give a very high proportion of their money away, and it always finds its way back to them. Always, because wealthy people understand this. And when you don't have, I was talking about wealth consciousness. When you have, it's not really you can't really say low and high consciousness, right? There's no such thing. But let's just explain it this way so people can visualize it. When you have low wealth consciousness, you're afraid to give because you don't think you have enough, and you don't think that you're going to get it back, or you don't think that you can afford it, and you're in the energy of lack. And remember, money doesn't respond to. It doesn't have a mind of its own. It responds to your energy. It responds to your vibration. Right. And if you're in a vibration of lack, even though you don't give your money to anyone and you keep it, the universe will find a way to take that money off you. You might end up with a huge bill, you might end up with a massive expense you weren't expecting, you'll something will happen, and that money will probably leave you. But when you give, and you give joyfully, and you give knowing that, I live in the vibration of abundance, and I live in the vibration and the belief that I will always have enough. You can give joyfully without any fear or lack around that. And that money will always come back to you every single time, because you have that high wealth consciousness, I would say. So yeah, that's how I view that.
I love what you mentioned too, gratitude, giving, having this grateful mindset. That's a step 4, you mentioned that, cultivate immense gratitude towards money. And step 5, make your money work for you. I know we don't have enough time to go through all of them, but hopefully we'll meet again and talk about these topics. I had so many questions I could not ask you because the conversation it went on its own, kind of the flow, which I absolutely live for. I still have some ending questions for you, Katherine, but before I ask them, would you like to add anything?
No, I don't think so. I think I've covered most things. Yeah.
What was the hardest lesson to learn about yourself in life as of today?
So the hardest lesson I had to learn about myself was I could achieve more by doing less. I've always been very much, a doer, taking action. And it goes back to being in my masculine energy a lot of the time, and suffering health-wise as a result of that actually as well. It was so alien to me, to not be doing and forcing and competing and moving things forward all of the time and in action mode all of the time. But when I learned to be in my feminine flow and step more into my feminine energy and lean back and just allow things to unfold, my results have been incredible. But it was a hard lesson. But it was worth learning and applying for sure.
If you knew you would leave the body soon, would you make any change in your life or do anything in a different way?
No, I wouldn't. I don't. I learned long ago to not have any regrets and be at complete and utter peace and acceptance and actual gratitude for even the really terrible things, that happened in my life. Because every single moment led me to where I am today, and I wouldn't change that for the world. So, yeah.
And the last question is, what are 3 things about life you know for sure as of this moment?
Things about life. 3 things I know about life for sure.
Yeah.
Love is the most powerful, energy of all. It's what everything is made of and created from. 2, we are infinite beings having a human experience, and, we're here for the long haul. We're here forever.
True.
And 3, I know that we are on the precipice of immense change and transformation in the world, and I absolutely believe that we will achieve the balance that we want to achieve in this world. And that's my 3rd.
I love that
absolute
vision.
Knowing.
Yeah, I love that vision of balance, achieving balance one day. All of us. That'll be utopia, that kind of idea we have about heaven on earth. Thank you so much for your beautiful presence, authentic, fun. You're a lot of fun to talk to listen to, for sure. I love your wisdom, your work. Thank you, Katherine.
Thank you, Valeria. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, and I really hope we can do this again sometime.
Where can we find more information about you, your work, services, future projects, and everything else in between?
Yeah. So my website is clarityqueen.life. You can find me on Instagram at clarity.queen, or on Facebook, Clarity Queen. Keen to connect with as many people as possible through social. And yeah, I've got lots of ideas and lots of things coming out that I hope will add value. So all of that will be available on the website or on my Instagram site.
Thank you so much again, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Valeria.
Bye
Take
for
care.
now, Katherine. You too.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Katherine Cornwall and her work, please visit clarityqueen.life.
To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.